What's up guys, Lizzie here. Today we're going to be going over the Pathfinder app. For those of you who are new to the Pathfinder SIG or new to the app or both, we're going to be going over the basic features of the Pathfinder app as well as how to use it effectively and just some scanning best practices, some mapping best practices so that you're mapping accurately and efficiently. Alright guys, so the first thing we want to do is log into the app. If you've logged in before, you'll see your character selection right here on the front page. If you've never logged in before, you will need to log in with your scanning account and then authorize the ESI check, and then you should be good to go. Alright guys, so we've got a wormhole scan down in game, so let's go ahead and map it on Pathfinder. So what you want to do is right click on the map anywhere at all and hit add system. As long as you have tracking enabled right over here, it's going to autofill your system name for you. So the exception to that is if you hit add system and this shows up as blank, then it means that your system that you're in has already been mapped somewhere else. So you just want to find it and make sure that the SIG that you're about to put in has not already been entered. If it has, just move on to a different wormhole. If it hasn't, then just add it into that system instead of creating a new one. So in this case, we are all good to go. So in the game, we want to do Control C on your wormhole, and then in Pathfinder just select the system, and then you want to use this copy paste icon button and just paste the information that you copied from the probe window into this and hit update signatures, and that's going to put this in for you right here. So we want to fill in the type. This one is a K162. This one is a large hole, which not everyone puts in. I just like to have it in there just for reference. And then leads to, we're going to be filling out in just a second. So go ahead and enter your wormhole. And then Pathfinder is actually going to automatically make that connection for you and add it right over here. It usually takes about, I don't know, 15 to 30 seconds. There it is. So in the system that you just came from, you want to hit the drop down and that new system will automatically be right there for you. And then in this side, we're just going to quickly scan down our exit hole. If you're a good Pathfinder / wormhole person, you habitually drop bookmarks at all of your exit holes. So in this case, I had already pre-scanned this just for the benefit of the video, but a best practice for quickly getting the exit hole scanned down is just double click in space or align to something or what have you to drop your cloak, and then you can actually just drop probes directly on yourself in the probe scanner. An alternative to that, if you're a little bit more paranoid, is you can drop your bookmark on the hole and then burn yourself a safe, and then you can drop your probes right onto your bookmark from your safe and get it that way, and you can usually get it in one pass doing this. Since you have it bookmarked, you don't actually need to scan it to 100 to put it into Pathfinder on this side. So again, same exact thing, we just copied it in the probe scanner, and now we're going to paste it into this side and it'll automatically be in your leads to. This one is a, let's see, K346, and it already has it right there for me. And this hole actually is EOL. So the way we want to mark that is you want to right click directly on the connection, and we're going to do change status, and in here is where you want to set any compromised status that your wormhole connection has. So in this case, we're going to turn EOL on. But if you were to go into a hole or approach a hole and you saw that it had been mass compromised, you can also change that in that same drop down. So that's pretty much it for adding wormholes to the map. So next we'll go over organizing the map. We'll talk about some basic features of Pathfinder app, how to navigate it, know what you're looking at, and check out how much you're going to get paid. Alright guys, so one thing I just wanted to touch on that we didn't actually talk about when I had the probe scanner window open in game is which SIGs should be put into Pathfinder app. So a system should not be on this map if it doesn't have a wormhole, but if you are in a system with a wormhole, it's really helpful to the other Pathfinders to actually put in all of the SIGs that are in that system. And we can use Louis' chain down here as an example. So let's see. See how all of these are put in? Now, if someone else comes into the same hole, they can have a reference of which SIGs have already been scanned down and compare the current SIGs in the system to see if any are new and still need to be scanned. If you go into a system that has a ton of SIGs and you don't have time to scan them all down to 25% to see what they are, you can still just put them in so that people know. And then you'll want to mark your system as unscanned, just like Louis done here. And to do that, you just right click on your system, and then you want to set status to unscanned. So here we can see he scanned down the hole on the other side, just like you're supposed to, and then he still pasted in all of the other SIGs so that whoever comes behind him knows that those signatures still need to be scanned down and there could be another wormhole in here. Alright guys, so let's talk about color coding on the map. So the object of the game here is we want this map to be as easy to read at a glance as possible, and part of the way we achieve this is with color coding the systems. So as a general rule, any target regions are going to be marked as red. Imperium Sov is going to be blue. Neighboring regions to Imperium Sov are green, and any wormholes that are active with player corporations are going to be marked as orange. So in order to do this, you just want to right click on the system and set status, and all of those that I just mentioned are going to be right here. This tealish color is unscanned, and you're going to use that, as we mentioned earlier, if there are SIGs in a system that you did not have time to scan down, as with this chain right down here. So pretty easy, and that just lets us see at a glance, you know, okay, we've got a hostile to friendly connection, or we've got a connection from RSOV to LowSec, things of that nature. It just makes the map a lot easier to navigate and a lot easier to quickly find what you're looking for. It's also worth mentioning that the Pathfinder's official map is the only map for which you will be paid. Any of these other maps are basically just extraneous. You really only want to be mapping on the Pathfinder's official map. Any SIGs mapped anywhere else will not count towards your total. And let's just go over these panels down here. So basically, this one is for your signatures, obviously. We talked about this one earlier. This one down here is just to show you recent activity in whichever system you have selected. Likewise, you have your kill board down here to see recent kills in a system. The routes one is one that I use pretty frequently because you can set a destination, and whenever you jump into a new system, it'll show you how many jumps you are from whichever system you have selected. So it's great for finding routes to target regions, being able to quickly check and see how close you are. This intel window down here, we don't really use it too often, but this is where you're going to put any structures that you find. For example, if you jump into a wormhole and you notice that it has player structures and maybe one of them has a timer, you can make a note of that down here. You could either copy your D-scan, or you can add it manually, really similarly to how you add signatures. So yeah, that's pretty much all of these panels down here. But I would say these two are the ones that I use the most frequently, signatures and routes, and then just keeping an eye on the kill board. Okay, so let's go over a couple of the different menus that we have on Pathfinder. So the first one I want to talk about is this map menu right here. This is going to pull out all the settings for your map. So grid snapping is basically just to keep things snapping to the grid. If you don't have that enabled, it takes away the grid and you can just kind of freely drag things around. We don't want that, because that just leads to a disorganized map. The next one is signatures. That's basically going to display either green arrows for correctly mapped connections or red diamonds for incorrectly mapped connections that are missing information. If you're actively scanning and adding connections, you might need to refresh this by just unselecting and reselecting it so that it will enable those icons for recently mapped connections. This third one is compact. This one just hides the player list of players active in a system. So right now we can see Plectrum is down here in AW1. You can have this selected or deselected, it's just personal preference. You really always want to have grid snapping and signatures turned on, but compact is kind of up to your personal preferences. The other menu is right over here, and this is where we're going to see our statistics, which is how you get paid. So you can search weekly, monthly, yearly, and then you can search by player name right there. And the statistic that you're going to look at is systems created right here. This is how you see whether or not you have hit your monthly requirement of 15 holes, or every increment of 25 holes is how we get paid, and that's on a rolling 4-week basis. So just keep an eye on this number, although typically you'll know if you've scanned your 15 or 25 or however, but that is how you see that statistic if you ever want to check. Alright, so let's talk a little bit about keeping the map organized. Like I said earlier, we want to keep this map as easy to read at a glance as possible. So it's really important that you organize systems in a way that is really easy to read and basically just not a clusterfuck. If you have a ton of systems like down here, you might want to organize them a little bit more compact, like what Louie's done with all of these. But you'll see a lot of times systems mapped like this as well. So basically just keep it clean, keep it organized, and if you see any solo systems that don't have any connections, like this one, you can just delete those right off the map. Systems that are locked typically are locked so that someone can find a wormhole again. In the case of the C6, that's what I'm assuming. Not really sure why this is locked, but typically if something is locked on the map, it's locked for a reason. You can unlock things to move them to a better location, or if they're just kind of floating out in the middle of the map, like when these connections time out, this will just be floating, so we'll want to move it over. Just make sure that any connections that you, or any systems rather, that you unlock, just make sure you lock them back up again afterwards so that they don't get deleted. As far as tracking goes, that's going to be this toggle right here. You do not always want to have tracking enabled. Typically, you only want to have tracking enabled when you are actively scanning a wormhole chain. So if you are out looking for wormholes, you don't need to have tracking enabled, and then once you find a wormhole, just simply turn it on right before you're finished scanning down the wormhole or before you go through the wormhole. This is because if you jump through a Anciplex gate or stargates, or if you get potted, or if you jump clone, or pretty much any mode of transportation, it will actually map it automatically, and a lot of times you'll see those junk connections up in this top left-hand corner. So it's also a great rule of thumb to not map real connections in the top left-hand corner, because we will periodically go through and just delete those, because 99% of the time they're from someone forgetting to turn off tracking. If you forget to turn off tracking and you notice that you have extraneous travel connections accidentally mapped, just go ahead and delete them right off. You don't want to have jump gates or system-to-system connections that are not wormholes on the map. And you can just delete those in the same way. You can just select by a drag and click, and you can just delete those right off immediately. Alright guys, I think that pretty much wraps up everything that you need to know to start using Pathfinder effectively. You'll notice at the bottom of the screen I have a list of the wormhole databases that you can reference. Those are great places to find out statistics about wormholes that you're in. For example, if you need to ping a wormhole and you're not sure of the available mass, you can check it on one of those databases, and just to have on hand for your general knowledge. For example, the second one, ANOIK, that one has a list of possible connections from any system that you are currently in. So let's say you're in a C1, it'll have statistics for a C1 to any of these types of connections. This one has the list of all of them that you can click on, and then of course on Eve Uni we have a list right here of the stats as well. So feel free to utilize those. They're just a quick and easy reference for you if you're new to wormholes and don't really know things off the top of your head. But yeah, I'm really excited for you to be using Pathfinder app correctly. Please never hesitate to ask any questions that you have in the Jabber channel or the in-game channel. We're always happy to help you. And we would much rather answer your questions there than come onto the map and see things mapped incorrectly. At the end of the day, it's really about having reliable intel for our Cord and for our FCs so that they feel safe and confident using our map and trust in these connections, and that's what Pathfinders is all about. So welcome to the SIG, and we'll see you soon.